the average pension in Ireland is really small.
Can you take me through what a worker would need to be putting away each month in order to become a pension millionaire by the time they reach retirement age, which is currently 66? Nick, you are very welcome back to Money Talks.
Thank you, Katie.
So, today's podcast is aimed at people who haven't yet started a pension, and we are trying to work out exactly how much each month they would have to put away to build a meaningful pension pot. And in this case, we're saying to become a pension millionaire. So it's to build a pension pot of €1 million. Do you think that is a number that the average person should aim for?
I think it's something, Katie, that people should understand the nature of why it might be a meaningful sum. And I will explain that maybe in a bit more detail. But really, just to recognize and understand that the average pension in Ireland is really small. It's €111,000, according to the CSI statistics from a couple of years ago. And whilst that shouldn't really put people off on the basis of aspiring to have this notional €1 million pot, there are more and more people that I'm coming across on a more regular basis that are, let's use the phrase average, that are seeing fairly large pension pots, not because they've put huge attention into them. They've just been working for companies for a long period and had the benefit of typically a company contribution. And it is this factor of time, you know.
Yes. Yeah, it really just comes down to time in the market, and with every investment, and pensions really are an investment at the end of the day. We're going to get into it. We're going to look at all the different age brackets from your 20s up to your 50s, what you need to put away each month. But I think we should just start with a quick caveat. This doesn't include the state pension, which, if you have the full maximum 40 years of contributions, is worth roughly €15,000 a year in today's money. Currently, we don't know where that's going to be in 10, 20 years' time. But that doesn't include this. So this is for a person who's, paying into a pension through their workplace each month. So shall we start with the 20s? Okay, so this is really the ideal age to start. Can you take me through what a worker would need to be putting away each month in order to become a pension millionaire by the time they reach retirement age, which is currently 66?
Now, I've seen a lot of variations of calculations done, Katie, and it depends on certain assumptions that you might use. For example, what the growth rate is. Now, I did some myself based on fairly conservative assumptions of growth, which I used at 6%, which is the maximum my industry would typically allow a financial advisor to use. And I do feel for someone in that age category, it's quite conservative. Obviously, the longer time that you have, the more aggressive approach you can take. And generally speaking, you should expect a higher growth rate than 6% a year. But for the purposes of this, that's the figure that I used. And the actual figure that I calculated was a total of about €720 a month gross. Now, before people get put off by that, because obviously there may be people in their 20s that think that's a ridiculously large sum, there are two big factors as to why that actually might be more achievable than you might think. For example, firstly, we saw the introduction of auto enrollment at the start of this year, which means that all workers typically will get a contribution from their employer of at least 1.5% of their salaries. And that's going to be incrementally increased up to 6%, which will be reasonably generous in about 8.5 years' time. Some employers have gone a little bit further, and generally speaking, the average pension contribution from an employer is around 4 to 5% of the employee's wages. Some companies do pay more. The second benefit is tax relief. So it means that that contribution, generally speaking, for anyone who's earning over 44,000 a year, gets 40% back, which is why pensions are one of the most talked about opportunities in the financial services industry. The other benefit is that they gain tax-free growth, and you mentioned compounding. It's so powerful over time. So the 20-something-year-olds benefit massively from not just the tax relief and as well as the employer contribution, but that tax-free growth. So €720 was actually for someone 20 years of age, and that might seem like a really early age to start a pension at. And it generally would be, I think the average pension starting age in Ireland is around 30. But the reason for auto enrollment was to try and get people onto the pension ladder earlier. And if you break down that €720 a month, assuming a reasonable employer contribution, which equates to about €200 a month for someone who's earning about the average wage, which is around 50,000 a year, that leaves the employee with a net contribution, assuming that they're earning over 44 grand a year, of about €300 a month.
Okay. So I think bottom line, that 720 a month is not coming out of your take home pay. It's gonna be around 300 coming out of your take home pay. So that's really the cost to you each month.
Exactly, Katie. And I think this is a big problem for people that they don't realize when they hear these figures banded around contributions, they think it's a net cost to them. And as I said, it is always reduced by either 20% if you're on the lower income tax bracket, which means that you're typically paid less than 44 grand a year, or 40%. So you always have to look at the net cost. And therefore, in my opinion, for an employee that has a relatively moderately positioned pension scheme with their employer, they'll be spending about 300 quid a month to get to that notional €1 million. And it's important to distinguish that that €1 million is in today's terms. There's no point hearing figures like €1 million in actual terms and then realizing that the real value could be somewhere as much as 50% of that through the effect of inflation. Obviously, we know inflation at the moment is around 4%. If you think about it over a 10-year period, that would knock about 40% off the actual value. So that 1 million figure that I mentioned equates to the real value in today's terms. Now, if people are wondering, like, that seems like a large figure, is it too much? Is it too little? And I always break the €1 million down as to say that, generally speaking, for anyone who was retiring this year, for example, you would get 240,000 of that €1 million in cash. You would have got most of it tax free, and you would have paid a small amount of tax once that figure went above 200,000. So this is the quarter of that 1 million, which would typically be 250, but as I said, about 10,000 gets knocked off that. It's not a very high rate of tax to pay, to be fair. The 750 that's left over in the pension fund, that allows you to draw an income. And I often say to clients when I am speaking to them about retirement options, what level of income do you feel that you would like to draw? And if I know it seems like a strange question because you might say, well, as much as I can physically take. It would depend on how much income do you need. And obviously, we don't want to take too much because otherwise the fund will run out too soon. We want it to last our lifetime. But we also don't want to pay too much in tax. So if you think about it, that's 750,000. Let's assume that that individual wants to earn 60,000 a year on top of the 240,000 they received. That's an 8% drawdown rate. And I think for most of us, we'd be fairly happy earning 60,000 a year, in addition to having this lump sum that we could draw from either to pay down debt, clear off our mortgage, provide to our children, if that's something that we choose to do, and also supplement that income if we did indeed want an even better lifestyle than 60,000 a year would afford us. So I hope that kind of proves that €1 million is typically, in my professional opinion, more than enough for most of us to live comfortably. So I hope that answers the question about how much someone might need in terms of retirement. And I feel that typically the €1 million would satisfy the vast majority of us. I'm 52 years of age. I am aiming for a pension fund of €1 million because I feel that that lump sum and income, notwithstanding that many people scorn the state pension, saying it won't be paid to the younger generation. I'm not entirely convinced of that. Let's think about the state pension. It's paid out of PRSI. So we effectively pay for it per year. And the government did increase PRSI contributions because the population is getting older. Now, that's going to worsen, obviously. So there may be more pressure on that. But they also increased the state pension age from 65 to 66. with the notion it was going to continue to increase to 70, but then they paused that. So I do feel that there is always going to be a state pension. It may not be quite as generous as it is now,
Hmm.
but if you build that independent pension pot of €1 million, I'm not convinced that you have to rely on it. I see it as more of a kind of a bonus. But in some cases, for those that may not be able to achieve the €1 million themselves, it can actually bring about quite a decent percentage of that. If you think about that 15,000 a year from the age of 66 to our normal living age, 82 to 85 years of age, that's the best part of about 250 to 300,000 euros
Yeah.
that you could actually deduct.
So 82 to 85, is this the life expectancy that we have, that you have brought into these calculations?
Typically, even though if you think about it, because the lump sum that's left, this notional 750,000 KT, is continuing to earn interest, it typically might last a lot longer. So there is no real expiry date of when that pension fund will finish. For those people that, for example, continue to work part-time, for example, in their, and it's starting to happen maybe more often now where people will work in later life. We're all living longer. We generally tend to be a bit healthier than we would have been in prior years. um, they might find that they're not drawing their pension down as aggressively, and therefore their pension will really mostly go in unimpacted, and they're leaving more of it behind them. And pensions don't die with us, which is something that used to happen. So typically, what's happening now is that people are retiring on a pension fund, not spending it all, and leaving it to their next of kin.
I see. Before we get into the 30s, 40s, 50s, Nick, let's just take a moment to look at the age related threshold for tax relief. So it kind of goes up about 5% every 5 years. So when you're under 30, you can pay in 15% of your salary to a pension and get tax relief on that. Now, something that I find causes a little bit of confusion, if you have an employer contribution, say they're giving 5%, it's 15% of your salary plus the 5%. So you're essentially paying in 20%. And I think some people can get confused on that one.
It often happens, Katie. So what we find is that when people recognize and understand their limits, and they're quite generous in Ireland. So as you said, for someone in their 30s, for example, they can put in 20%. In their 20s, it's 15% of their gross taxable pay annually. So if you're earning, let's say, 50,000 a year in your 20s, that's essentially 7,500, 15% of 50. But your employer contribution does not count towards that. And a lot of people think that it does. It's completely separate and it's irrelevant. The only caveat is that for higher earners, those that are earning over 115,000 a year, that contribution is capped. So, for example, if you were in a position, and again, it's probably more unlikely in your 20s, but maybe when you get into your 30s and 40s, where your gross earnings are exceeding 115,000, it is capped for the purposes of that calculation. So again, for someone in their mid-30s, earning over 115,000 a year, it's basically 20% of the 115,000. It's therefore capped at 23,000 a year gross. Again, with the employer contribution sitting on top of that, which for those people that are earning more money, and we've seen quite a number of people who are earning in that six-figure category, it gives them a lot of scope to kind of overfund their pension in the years that they can afford to. It's not necessarily a straight line. Even that €300 a month that we spoke about for those in the 20 category, that might not always be the case early on, but it's an average, and sometimes they might be in a position to overfund their pension in the years where they're not paying for things like a mortgage or rent, maybe living at home. I was talking to a client earlier who said that he convinced his son, who was only 21, first job, to start contributing towards a pension scheme as a way of like longer term savings. And we must remember that pensions can be accessed from the age of 50 onwards. And many people want this notion of what I call financial independence a lot sooner than the state pension age. It's something that a lot of people are trying to strive to. Doesn't necessarily mean that they retire at 50. It's just allowing them to slow down or to maybe take the notion that they're choosing to work.
Hmm.
And if at any stage they decide not to.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the 30s. Let's go straight to the bottom line here, though, in this one, right? So, what would come out of your take home pay each month if you were to start a pension in your 30s and retire a pension millionaire? Because I think we might have scared people off with the 720 in your 20s, because it's not really 720. So,
Not really.
what's the bottom line then in your
You're right,
30s? And
Katie.
we'll work backwards then.
Yeah, you're right. It is about the bottom line, and it's not about scaring people. So that figure jumps to 540 a month net
Okay.
for that individual. And again, it shouldn't frighten people because a lot of us probably have the capacity to save money. I know it's been difficult with the cost of living rise, and we've all got obligations to meet. But, it might be a case of a loan that they've cleared, or where they're in a position now where they could fund their pension, as I mentioned, just even for a period. They might get a bonus, and before you get used to it, you allocate it towards savings, and sometimes, as I said, the longer term. So the 540 a month drop, rise doesn't really surmount to a massive amount. It's 240 a month increase from someone in their 20s. It's not a
Hmm.
massive amount. And that's assuming a standing start, that they have no pension provision
Hmm.
up to that point.
Hmm. Nick, what about the 40s? Tell me, how much would a pension cost somebody if they were aspiring to become a pension millionaire and they were starting for the first time in their 40s?
So the jump from 30s to 40s becomes a bit steeper. And typically that net cost that we spoke about jumps from 540 euros up to just over 1,057 a month. So it's almost doubling at that stage. Now, again, the changes from 30s to 40s are that most of us had probably acquired a property at that time. We've got off the rent kind of, I
Hmm.
suppose, track. We are starting to earn more and maybe have a better idea about where we're going with our planning. We tend to get a little bit more savvy as we get older. So I still feel it's not totally unrealistic, even for someone in their 40s, to aspire to that 1 million figure.
Yes.
And the contribution, as I've said, and again, I stand over these figures, is just over 1,000 a month of a net cost to themselves. But there may be wins that they could get from better growth, which would mean that the figure would reduce, more of a contribution from the employer, and as we've said, potentially even factoring in a small proportion of even the state pension.
Yes. Yeah. It's a sizable chunk every month, but I think you're right. Like, it's still within the bounds of possibility.
Totally. And as I said, it's not about people saying, well, it's a one foot all solution, and making people feel bad about what they are contributing. I think a lot of it is just, it's like anything, it's just putting a little bit of attention to that and trying to bridge the gap. I've had many clients who successfully retired on 500,000 euros, for example.
Hmm.
Doesn't need to get to that. But the million is that magic mark, as we've said. I really feel strongly that anybody, and really importantly, has a sense of that projection, because they're always really pleasantly surprised when I show them the projections of how much less of a burden it seems to be, because they don't really take into account that compounding growth, the employer contribution, and the tax-free element to that. They're the three real kind of pluses.
Yes. Somebody in their 40s, I mean, they still have a lot of working years left. Is there anything to be said for exploring the idea of a higher risk pension in your 40s?
Absolutely. One of the biggest mistakes I find that people make, and it's not their fault, obviously, it's down to what I call financial literacy, unfortunately, which a lot of us probably suffer from, is that we have this notion that we should de-risk our pensions as we get older and closer to retirement. Now, there's a little bit of truth in that. But for someone in their 40s, again, when they understand and maybe have a thought to when they are likely to look to access their pension, probably for most of us, if truth be told, it's 55 to 60. And what we say is that it allows you that sort of ability to get that 10 years of growth in your pension scheme and not suffer from the fact that, it's at its largest point. You really want it to kind of grow and compound with interest. And for that reason, I would suggest that people in their 40s should not be de-risking their pensions too soon. The
Okay.
time to de-risk your pension, really, Katie, is about 3 years before you're looking to access it. And at that, it's only for that sort of quarter that you're looking to take out. Because think about it, most of us are not going to be taking money out of our pension schemes for some of that money in our 60s, hopefully our 70s, hopefully in our 80s, and maybe not at all. And it passes on to the next generation.
Okay, interesting. Okay, we're into our 50s now. Let's again just go to the bottom line. What would come out of your take home pay in broad strokes term? Because again, I think it's important to say, these are broad strokes calculations. But broad strokes, what would come out of take home pay?
So again, assuming that someone has no pension provisions built up, and if we're jumping straight to the 50s categories, we are getting into that territory where we are going to have to make a big increase. And typically that goes from that 541 for those in their 30s up to about €2,000 a month. Now, again, generally, whilst that might seem like a really large amount of money, and I am assuming a fairly moderate contribution from the employer. So the employer might pick up more of the tab. We tend to be in a higher position when we're in our 50s. We may be able to negotiate a bit more of the money going towards our pension scheme.
Hmm.
But if you think about that, most of us in our 50s, and I'm 52, as I said, we got through a lot of the more expensive years of childcare. Again, not always the case, but like I have 4 children in a blended family, and yeah, a lot of the costs now. My eldest, for example, has finished college, coming off, thankfully, the sort of the pay slip, but um, and we can allocate that money towards something. And because the pension is so much closer, it allows us that kind of ability to say, well, it's just a really good savings plan. And
Yes.
sometimes I feel that we probably might not save in the best place. I mean, obviously, we've heard Simon Harris talk about this new government investment scheme, trying to encourage people to get away from the traditional deposits, which we're all so familiar with. And everyone keeps putting money into like the post office and the credit union, and that's fine to a point, particularly for very short-term objectives. But many of us are still putting money into these institutions for the longer term because we don't really know what the other options are, and pensions really are truly one of them.
Yes. I mean, look, obviously starting earlier is always best, but there are going to be people playing catch up. And I think we've shown that, it's not, you haven't left it too late. It's still possible. You can still retire with a meaningful sum. You just really have to roll the sleeves up. Do you encounter people, Nick, who are playing catch up to this level, though? Are you meeting people in their 40s and 50s who are just, kind of coming at it later in life and going all at it?
I do, Katie, and there are many reasons why that could be the case. They may have had a lot of obviously outgoings. We're starting to see, unfortunately, more people who go through separations and divorces, and that can set people back quite a lot financially, and therefore they're almost like starting from scratch. And I give them comfort and reassurance that there is, sometimes a way forward for them. It happened in my own life, for example. So, and really then is to say, well, people can make those changes. Again, a lot of it is about rebalancing, just maybe not focusing so much on the short term, more towards that sort of medium, longer term. And I always use as well just some little tidbits. Like there are these kind of rules of thumb. So if someone feels that it is completely like unrealistic for them to aspire to those figures, and as I said, sometimes they might have, like for example, I've spoken to a lot of people who worked in the UK and have entitlement to the UK state pension, but may not necessarily realise, and there's an opportunity, or they have a small pension pot from a previous employment that they completely forgot about and they sort of almost wrote it off. And once you factor in those numbers and with the compounding effect of those, it can definitely help. So it is important for people to kind of source out and just check and see, did they have a pension from a different country that they worked in, like Australia, for example. A lot of us would have gone across there for a while. Is there a small pension from a previous company that they may have forgotten about? And in terms of this rule of thumb. I mean, if you think about it, for someone who wants 50,000 a year income, that requires, not allowing for this tax-free cash in, as I mentioned, a pot of about 800,000. And they might be really satisfied with that figure. For someone who wants 40,000 a year income, they would require a pot of about 660,000. And for 30,000 a year income, 500,000. So you can almost some way reverse engineer it and say, well, if I feel based on my outgoings that I can live on 30,000 a year because I have no mortgage, I have no financially dependent children anymore, and I have a moderate lifestyle, I don't need to be going to very expensive hotels and holidays. And I would say, well, it's lovely to get to the million. And yes, it's something that I would suggest that if you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, is something that you kind of aim towards. You may not always get there, but you aim towards. But for those that may feel it's completely unrealistic, I would say to them, what would be a figure that you'd feel that you could live off? And then you just, reverse that back and say, well, the fund you need may be a lot less.
Yes. Before we sign off, Nick, I think it's important to let listeners know how we arrived at these calculations. So we're looking at a salary for somebody in their 20s of around 50,000, and then as we get into the older categories, the salary gradually goes up. And
Exactly.
you correct me if I'm wrong with any of these. We're allowing a 5% employer contribution for all of them.
Absolutely correct, Katie. And
Okay.
we've allowed for a 3% per annum indexation of their salaries.
Okay.
The same for inflation. So they're really generic assumptions. I feel that they're very realistic. I mentioned the growth rate used was 6%.
Hmm.
And as I said, these are things that people should get from a financial advisor. And obviously, whoever your pension advisor is should be able to do the calculations specific to you.
Hmm.
And it's worthwhile checking in once a year because we've seen great growth. I mean, in the last 12 months, for example, the average pension fund's gone up by about 15%. So it definitely helps us. And this is not just a once-off phenomenon. This has been going on for a while, despite all the issues that we've seen in the world. So it might surprise people to see like their pension funds are bigger than they realized.
Yes.
And obviously that checking in with their pension, because if you think about it, it gets more accurate every year you get older because the time frame obviously condenses. And for those that are comfortable working later in life, it obviously becomes more achievable.
Hmm.
Sometimes I look at trying to bring the retirement age for people down. And obviously, that in itself means that it squeezes us a small bit. But as I said, we just need to think about our financial objectives. And the key thing is you break it up into three parts: your short, medium, and long term. And what we focused on, obviously, today has been the longer term. What I say is the financial independence piece doesn't always necessarily mean retiring. As I said, some people do like the idea of the choice.
Yes, absolutely. Nick, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much again for your time, Katie. Really appreciate it. Thank you.